ain't no stopping me. Got bands, I'ma run it up, it ain't no stopping me. I was broke, came up with a plan, now I'm the man, it ain't no stopping me. Got bands, I'ma run it up, it ain't no stopping me. I done ran up all these bands up in hand to hand, made like 5 bands a day. I was broke, came up with a plan, now I'm the man, it ain't no stopping me. I done ran up all these bands up in hand to hand, made like 5 bands a day. I was broke, came up with a plan, now I'm the man, it ain't no stopping me. It ain't no stopping me. Got bands, I'ma run it up, it ain't no stopping me. I was broke, came up with a plan, now I'm the man, it ain't no stopping me. Got bands, I'ma run it up, it ain't no stopping me. I done ran up all these bands up in hand to hand, made like 5 bands a day. I was broke, came up with a plan, now I'm the man, it ain't no stopping me.
Testing 1 2, testing 1 2, testing 1 2, testing 1 2. How about that? There we go. There we go. We're always slow at the start, but we get it together, right? Better late than never. What's going on, guys? What's going on? We're here. We're here. You know, one of the things I'm gonna start doing, I'm gonna start to pivot on this channel. I've got some ideas, some places I want to try out with this channel. So I'm always struggling at the beginning of these lives trying to host this podcast, but I'm gonna start making some less formal videos, give y'all some different looks, give y'all some different scenery. Y'all are getting too used to the studio with the mic and keep trying to keep it classy. I'm gonna start showing y'all when I'm out running, when I'm out going for runs. I'm gonna start showing y'all when I'm in the truck driving, going from A to B, thoughts that I have throughout the day. So I'm going to start hitting y'all with some less formal videos. If this is something that would interest you, be sure to hit the thumbs up button as y'all come into the room. And I appreciate y'all supporting the channel, hitting the thumbs up button. And if you haven't already, you got to go ahead and smash the subscribe button for content just like this, where we talk about a wide range of topics. Today we're on the political tip. It's an election year, 2024 presidential election year. A lot of people have been criticizing Kamala Harris, saying she's not talking enough about policies. You know, her website is barren. We went over her website on this channel, and that I'm going to update that video. I'm going to make another video where we check out her website. People have been saying she's not talking about policy. She's not going out for interviews. Well, she's sort of turned a new leaf since that debate. I think she's gained a lot of momentum. That debate with Donald Trump, I think she sort of, let's be honest, let's call a spade. She watched Donald Trump in that interview, in that debate. All right. Donald Trump is talking about he doesn't know if he wants to have any follow-up debates. He's scared. Let's call a spade. He's scared. He doesn't know if he can survive another debate performance like he had before. Now, I've seen allegations that Kamala Harris was given the questions prior to the debate, and the moderators only fact-checked Donald Trump and didn't fact-check Kamala Harris. I'm seeing allegations that this was agreed to prior to the debate, and if that is confirmed, I think that's a big story that should get a lot of attention if those allegations are confirmed. So my ears are to the streets. I'm on the lookout for more articles and confirmation that the debate was indeed, if allegedly the debate was rigged. So I've heard allegations that Kamala Harris was given the questions prior to the debate, and it was agreed that she would not be fact-checked and only Donald Trump would. Allegedly. This is what I'm hearing. I'd like to see some confirmations about that. But as it stands, Kamala Harris did win that debate. Okay, and since then, she's been riding that momentum that she gained after that debate. And she's following up with this interview with the National Association of Black Journalists, the NABJ. We saw Donald Trump go to the NABJ, and it was a fairly hostile interview. We reviewed that here on this channel. You can go back and check that out. But now Kamala Harris is going on, and hopefully she's talking more policy. So this is a reaction. I haven't seen it yet. We're gonna watch this thing together, and I'm gonna be breaking it down for us. So without any further ado, let's get into it.
Good afternoon. I'm proud to give greetings from the National Association of Black Journalists, the largest in the nation association for journalists of color. For 49 years, we have advocated for fair newsrooms and fair coverage of Black people in the news. We also train journalists and media professionals and support emerging media members. I am proud to salute the 44 brave souls who established the National Association of Black Journalists in 1975. Our founders present, would you please stand? I'd like to also recognize our board of directors who work tirelessly for our members. Our board members present, please stand. I salute our staff and volunteers who have made this event possible. Please stand or wave your hands wherever you are. And I also salute our esteemed members, those who are following us from home or at work. This special event is a function of our mission to inform journalists covering the news and provide a needed service to those looking to journalists to inform them better. Every 4 years, we ask the presidential nominees to meet with us and answer questions about important issues. I am proud to say that for the first time in 24 years, both the Republican and the Democratic nominees have accepted our invitation. Just like the last discussion, PolitiFact will provide real-time fact-checking of the conversation via hashtag NABJ FactCheck on social media and through the live feed on the NABJ website. Again, thank you so much for attending.
Let's meet our three moderators for today's discussion.
It's not me, guys.
Jaron Keith Gaynor is the White House correspondent and managing editor of politics for The Griot. Eugene Daniels is co-author of the Politico Playbook and is Politico's White House correspondent. Tanya Mosley is the co-host of NPR and WHYY's Fresh Air.
They're just introducing the moderators. Be sure to hit the thumbs up
Hello,
button,
everyone,
guys.
and welcome. We're going to get right to it. Without further ado, Vice President Kamala Harris.
I get paid $5,000 up to $30,000.
And it's a commercial. Let me stop it here. Boom. All right, guys, I'm going to cancel this commercial. But before I do, just want to encourage y'all to hit the thumbs up button. Without any further ado, let's get back into this NABJ interview. Y'all check this out.
Madam Vice President, thank you so much for doing this and making the time.
Of course.
I'm just a little bit busy right now. We want to start on an issue that Americans across the country say is their number one concern, and that's the economy. A question that has been asked of you and everybody that's on the Democratic side is whether or not voters are better off now than they were 4 years ago. Are they better off now than they were 4 years ago?
So when we came into, well, first of all, let me just say, it is good to be with the National Association of Black Journalists, and I thank you for the work you do and that your members do every day. It is very important that we ensure that this organization and your members always have the resources and the platforms to deliver the voices that must be heard. So I thank you for hosting me today. 4 years ago, when we came in during the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. We came in during the worst public health epidemic in centuries. We came in after the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And a lot of it due in large part to the mismanagement by the former president as it relates to COVID and obviously January 6th. And we had then a lot of work to do to clean up a mess. As of today, we have created over 16 million new jobs, over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs. We have the lowest Black unemployment rate in generations. We have invested in small businesses, and they're to the benefit of many people, but including Black small businesses, some of the highest rate of creation of new Black small businesses in years. We have done the work of capping the cost of prescription medication for our seniors for issues like insulin. And again, I'm speaking to the Black journalists who care about all people, but in particular, I'll talk about the impact on Black people, where we know Black folks are 60% more likely more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. And we have now finally capped the cost.
Notice she keeps mentioning from the jump. This is her opening statement. She keeps mentioning, I want to talk about all people. I want to talk about all people. Okay, now you're usually when you go to different platforms, you can hide behind, I want to be the president for all people. But this is a specifically Black audience. This is the National Association of Black Journalists. So here you're talking to a Black audience, and she still keeps saying, I'm here for all people. I'm here for all people. All right. What about us, though? Yeah, okay. All right. I'm going to give her some grace. I'll give her some leeway, let her talk. But already from her opening statement, she's already mentioning all people. I want to hear some specifics to us. But okay. I'll give her some grace. All right.
Cost of insulin for our seniors at $35 a month. Cap the cost of prescription medication for our seniors at $2,000 a year, because we, unlike the former president who promised to do it, we finally have allowed Medicare to negotiate drug prices against the big pharmaceutical companies. And these are just some of the accomplishments. Is the price of groceries still too high? Yes. Do we have more work to do? Yes. And I will tell you, I do believe that I offer a new
1 second, guys. Someone's at my door.
leadership
Y'all
for
give me
our
1
country
second.
That is about, in particular, turning the page on an era that sadly has shown.
Oh my goodness. Sorry about that, guys. I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. Some strange dude came to my back door. My wife downstairs. I'm like, hold on, let me go address this. I don't know who it is at my back door. So I had to go regulate. Sorry about that, guys. Give me 1 second here. Give me 1 second. Yeah, somebody shining lights, flashlights in my back door. I'm like, hey man, hey. I had to go handle that. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that. I don't know who that was coming to my back door. I got my wife and my mother-in-law downstairs. I'm like, hey, who, hey. You know what I mean? All right, sorry about that, guys. All right, we're going to get back into the NABJ interview. I'm sorry about that, guys. I had to handle that family, that family business. Sorry about that. All right, without any further ado, let's get back into this interview here. We're back. Sorry about that. All right, let's play.
As attempts by some to incite fear, to create division in our country, and to do the work that is about bringing some level of optimism and, dare I say, ambition about what I know is possible in our country. And so my plan for the economy includes what I imagine and believe and call an opportunity economy. What we can do to grow an opportunity economy where all people have access to the resources to compete, to apply their incredible work ethic, their ambition, their aspirations, and their dreams, and actually not just get by, but get ahead. And I can talk in more detail about it, but specifically, I'll mention a few things.
Yeah.
One of the big issues that affects people right now in terms of the economy and their economic well-being is we have a shortage of housing supply. It's too expensive. People can't afford to buy a home. You know, we grew up, our parents, where they had the ability to somehow believe the American dream was attainable. Not so much.
Right now, I just want to say she is filibustering. Can you even remember what the original question was? This is actually a tactic that a lot of politicians do, and it's very intentional what they do. If they ask the question because they don't want to be asked follow-up questions, what they'll do is they'll filibuster. They'll just keep talking. And after a while, because people's attention span is so short, they know that if they just keep talking, the more they talk, that the viewer, the audience, the listener will just associate the fact that they continue to talk and assume that whatever they're saying is more true, more accurate, more backed by knowledge, wisdom, and facts because of the length of time that the speaker continues to speak. This is actually a psychological tactic. I want to point this out, especially for the younger viewers. A lot of people might not know that, but you'll see now that I'm pointing this out to you. Next time you see an interview of not just Kamala Harris, but any politician, notice when they start to filibuster because this is very intentional.
Much for younger working people, and I recognize that. So my approach is a new approach, which is to say, let's just take this and deal with it head on. And part of my approach is to say, I'm going to employ and engage the private sector, in particular home builders with tax credits, to give them the incentive to create new housing, 3 million by the end of my first term, and understanding that not everybody is, handed a silver spoon, but works hard and is trying to save up for a down payment. Part of my plan under my opportunity economy is to give first-time home buyers a $25,000 down payment assistance so they can just get their foot in the door to be able to then engage in what will prove to be their opportunity to build intergenerational wealth. And here's my personal experience coming at that. I grew up a middle-class kid. My mother was hardworking. She raised me and my sister Maya. She saved up. And it was only by the time I was a teenager that she could afford to actually buy her first home. And I know, and I identify with, I know where I come from.
Madam Vice President.
And I know, but I'm just going to finish. I know that so many people work so hard and should have the opportunity to just get their foot in the door. Again, so it's not just about getting by, but getting ahead. Please.
I'd like to ask you more about the opportunity economy. Housing is a part of it, as well as expanding the earned income tax credit, financial support, as you mentioned, for first-time buyers, and a $50,000 tax deduction for startups and small businesses.
Yes.
But I want to talk to you about the squeeze that millions of Americans are also dealing with that impacts their ability to work and make money, and that is child care and elder care. And it's a squeeze for millions of people. In some parts of the country, it costs more for childcare than for rents. I think Bloomberg recently reported an average of $33,000 a year. So I'm just wondering, you mentioned that in your opportunity economy, a child tax credit, but that's just one part of an ecosystem.
Right.
Please tell us, what plans will you propose to guarantee that families can actually afford childcare and elder care?
So to your point, it is sadly the state of affairs in our country that working people often have to decide to either be able to work or be able to afford childcare. Like they can't afford childcare and actually do the work that they want to do because it's too expensive and it doesn't actually level out in terms of the expense versus the income. My plan is that no family, no working family should pay more than 7% of their income in childcare. Because I know that when you talk about the return on that investment, allowing people to work, allowing people to pursue their dreams in terms of how they want to work, where they want to work, benefits us all. It strengthens the entire economy. We saw, for example, during the pandemic what happened. And it sadly has dissipated as a conversation that we need to resuscitate, which is the number of women that had to leave the workforce because of a lack of childcare and home health care. And so many of our families, and in particular women, end up carrying the responsibility. Men do too, of course. What we call people who are in the sandwich generation.
Exactly.
Who have young children and are also taking care of their parents. And it is just absolutely too expensive for them to be able to work and do that. So my plan is not only about 7% of income for working people for childcare, but also we need to do better for our childcare providers and our home healthcare providers in terms of ensuring that they receive the wages that they deserve based on the dignity of their work. I have spent.
Now, just to refresh your memory, the question is, what were you going to do to make childcare and elder care more affordable? And so far, she said she wants to make childcare 7% of the income. 7% of what income? How does she plan on achieving this goal? The cost of what is she planning on reducing in order to make childcare 7%? Is she going to be subsidizing daycare? I mean, she just pulled a number out of her tailbone. Like, where are you getting that 77% from?
Time with home health care providers, and their work is some of the most taxing work you can imagine. And I actually, when my mother was sick with cancer, did a lot in terms of taking care of her. And the work that is about taking care of a loved one, in particular an elder, is extraordinarily heavy in terms of the emotional toll, the time it takes. And we do it because that is what we do, but not everyone has the ability to take time from work to do it, and they need help. And we need to make sure we have home health care workers that can help them. But I want to also get back to the earlier point that you made about extending the child tax credit. So part of my new approach is we need to expand the child tax credit. And so part of my plan that is under an opportunity economy is to extend and expand the child tax credit to $6,000 so that young families in particular, for the first year of their child's life, which is an extraordinarily important time in their development, have the resources to be able to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy children's clothing, and not have to worry about whether they're going to be able to meet their other needs. And I don't need to remind anybody here, especially these esteemed journalists, but when we expanded the child tax credit a couple years ago, we reduced Black child poverty by half. And so again, if you talk about the benefit, and if you think about the benefit to the economy overall, it strengthens our economy to do things like pay attention to affordable child care, affordable home health care, and extending the child tax credit.
Madam Vice President, Black men, as you know, are a closely watched voting bloc.
Now, that's one policy that I do like. It's specific. $6,000 tax credit to babies in their first year of life. I like that. All right. I want to give credit where credit is due. Two policies that she so far has mentioned is $6,000 tax credit for babies in their first year of life and $50,000 to small businesses. Those are two policies I can support her in. All right, I just want to give credit where credit is due. I'm trying to be fair over here.
Madam Vice President, Black men, as you know, are a closely watched voting bloc. You've hosted Black men at your residence.
Yep.
You have engaged Black men and centered them in your economic opportunity tour. But polling shows that some Black men, particularly young Black men, are considering voting for Donald Trump, and they see him as better for the economy. What is your message to young Black male voters who feel left out of this economy, and how can your economic policies materially change their lives?
So I appreciate the spirit of the question, but I'll tell you, I've often been asked this question in a way that I've had to respond by first saying that I think it's very important to not operate from the assumption that Black men are in anybody's pocket. Black men are like any other voting group. You got to earn their vote. So I'm working to earn the vote, not assuming I'm going to have it because I am Black, but because the policies and the perspectives I have understands what we must do to recognize the needs of all communities. And I intend to be a president for all people. Specifically as it relates to what we need to do, to your point around economic opportunity. Yes, I started way before I was at the top of the ticket at what I called an economic opportunity tour, focused on...
Now, just to refresh your memory here, because she likes to filibuster. She likes to filibuster so you forget the question she's supposed to be answering. The question was, how can you encourage young Black men who are thinking about voting for Trump? How can you encourage them to vote for yourself? That's the question, essentially. How can you pander to the Black men? Because Black men they're not feeling you. All right? We are not feeling you. How can you solicit the Black male vote? That's the question here. And she's filibustering. Oh, for first of all, I'm not entitled to anyone's vote. Okay, the question was, what are you going to do to get our vote? Notice she hasn't said any policies, and now she's going to start talking about what she's going to do for all Americans. Again, the question was specific to Black males. See, if the question was, what issues do you think you do better on for women? Oh, well, it's abortion rights, the right to choose body autonomy. But when you talk about men, specifically Black men, not a single policy. Okay. All right. Got it. Heard you.
But because the policies and the perspectives I have understands what we must do to recognize the needs of all communities. And I intend to be a president for all people. Specifically as it relates to what we need to do, to your point around economic opportunity. Yes, I started way before I was at the top of the ticket at what I called an economic opportunity tour, focused on Black men. Understanding that, for example, we have so many entrepreneurs in the community who do not have access to capital, but they've got great ideas, an incredible work ethic, the ambition, the aspiration, the dream, but don't have the relationships necessarily. So my work has included, as vice president, getting billions more dollars into community banks, including working with the big banks to do that, so that we can increase access to capital for our small businesses, for our startups. Part of my plan under my economic opportunity plan going forward is that right now, startup entrepreneurs, small businesses only get a tax deduction of $5,000. Nobody can start a small business with $5,000. So I'm expanding that to $50,000. Understanding, again, that when people have the opportunity to have the resources to get started, they're going to put the good ideas, they're going to put the hard work into it. And part of what I also know is that our young Black men, our Black men, just like any group of people, anybody, our small businesses are really the backbone of our economy overall. And when they do better economically, we all do better. Part of my work is about understanding what we need to do in dealing with, for example, the historic inequities that have faced the Black community around home ownership, right? I don't have to go through the history with any.
Boy, she is struggling. What? This woman is struggling right now. She's looking for anything she can tie in. The question was, what are you going to do for black men? She's like, well, I got 50,000 for businesses. That has nothing to do with black men. That's a policy for everyone. As a demographic, you're talking to the National Association of Black Journalists. Was she prepared at all for any questions concerning black people? From her opening statement, I'm here for all people. I'm here for all Americans. My policies are for all Americans. Why are you coming to the National Association of Black Journalists not expecting to ask questions or speak specifically to the needs of the black community? Why is it that I wonder if she would go to DACA recipients, have an interview with Telemundo One, and not talk about immigration, not talk about the policies that influence Hispanics and immigrants? You would never. Why would you go to a specific demographic of people and talk to them about policies for everyone? Oh my goodness, she's struggling here. She's struggling. I've got 50,000, and mind you, I like the $50,000 for small businesses. I like that, but it's not very specific, is it? And I'm curious at this point if they're even going to ask her about reparations, because the fact that she's struggling this far, she's struggling with talking about anything specific. She can't find one policy to specifically target or help black men. I'm curious if they even. I bet. How much you want to bet? I bet you 50 push-ups they will not ask her about reparations. How about that? Let's get back into it.
We all do better. Part of my work is about understanding what we need to do in dealing with, for example, the historic inequities that have faced the black community around home ownership, right? I don't have to go through the history with anybody here about what that has meant in terms of redlining, what that has meant in terms of biases in home appraisals, and the impact it has had on stemming the opportunity to build intergenerational wealth because of those obstacles. So part of the work that I have done and will continue to do is identify, speak truth about those obstacles, and address them. Another example is medical debt. 1 in 4 black families or individuals is more likely to carry medical debt than others. So part of my perspective, and as vice president, part of the work that we have done is to say that we're going to eliminate medical debt from being on your credit score. Because until now, medical debt worked against your credit score, and people know their credit score like your weight, right? You know that number. And the difference between what that number is and what it needs to be is the difference between you being able to get a car loan, a small business loan, or even a lease on an apartment. And so part of my...
Now that's interesting. I haven't heard her speak on this policy before. Taking medical loans, medical debt off of your credit score. That's interesting. I haven't heard of that. I would be more impressed if she, excuse me guys, excuse me. I would be more impressed if she was promoting Medicare for all. That way we could eliminate medical debt as a thing. First of all, let's talk about this for a second. I'm going to get back into the interview, but medical debt in and of itself should be illegal. It should be dismantled. It should not be a thing. People should not be in debt because they got sick. One of the only purposes of the government, when we talk about government, what's the purpose of a government? The only thing a government is really supposed to get involved in is keeping its citizens what? Safe and secure. Safety. That's largely the only point of a government. The government proposes laws. Do not kill, do not steal, don't defame people, don't assault people. Why? Because the government is a safety mechanism. The whole purpose of a government is to keep the citizens of that government safe. That's the only purpose. We get taxed. That's not the purpose of a government. Now, we as a society, because we want nice, and I'm telling you about political philosophy at this point. All right. Political philosophy, the government is something that we as citizens buy into. It's called the social contract. We agree to submit ourselves to the laws and rules of the government as a mechanism to keep us safe. Our freedoms in return for safety. That's the whole relationship between citizens and government. So when people are literally going bankrupt, people are in debt because they got sick, that's the government failing to keep you safe from illness. People are losing their money, losing their homes, going through divorces, losing their families because they've gotten sick. Has nothing to do with them. Doesn't have to do with anything they did. They're non-smokers, they're athletic, they're non-drinkers. But you just get old enough, all of a sudden you get Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. You got heart disease, cancer. The fact that the government in the Western society, especially in the United States, the richest country in the world, has people going into debt, losing their families, losing their homes because they got sick, that in and of itself is a scam. Now, removing medical debt from your credit, that's a good thing. That's a small step. That allows people to, take on more debt because your credit is only good for taking on debt. But removing medical debt from your credit score, that's a good policy. But we should eliminate medical debt altogether. That's why I'm a big proponent of Medicare for all. People should not be going into debt because they got sick. Doctors have taken an oath, not only to do no harm, but to help the sick. To help the sick. Doctors, in order to get that medical degree, are taking on so much debt, and that's why student loans, free college, free higher education, Medicare for all, healthcare for the citizens, these policies go hand in hand. You can't have Medicare for all, so the doctors aren't being able to do their private practice where they're taking astronomical amounts of money from sick individuals who have no choice because they need a kidney transplant. You can't have Medicare for all while medical doctors are going hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt just to get the degree to help people. The two cannot be isolated. You have to lower the costs, lower the barriers for young folks, for students who have the knowledge and who have the discipline and who have the desire and ability to sit through the classes and learn the trade and learn the skill. I don't think, Medicare for all, free higher education, these policies go hand in hand. I don't think that any student, any teenager, because you usually go to college when you're 18, but anybody, regardless of age, if you have the ability to sit, listen, and learn a skill, you shouldn't have to pay for it. You shouldn't be going into debt for it, not in the richest country in the world. Because what you're essentially doing by charging people to get higher education, you're putting up a barrier, an artificial barrier to entry. You're putting up a barrier between the people and the knowledge. And this is what people, George Carlin has a joke, it's a big club and you ain't in it. The people who are in the club that controls the world, they want these barriers to be up to keep the masses of people from success. The people who are in the club, the people who are in the top 1%, the Jimmy Buffetts of the world, the Bill Gates of the world, the Koch brothers of the world. They want to keep, they don't want Medicare for all. They don't want people to live. They want people to be in debt. Why? Because if you're in debt, you're less likely to own land. If you're in debt, you're less likely to own land. You're a renter. You're a renter. They can keep you on that hamster wheel. You're less likely to take chances because they got you. You're already in debt. You got that anchor around your neck. See, they want you to have to work a job. A lot of people in their 60s, people who are old enough to retire, should be retired, are working not because they necessarily need the money, but because they need the health care. See, it's all connected. It's all connected. The corporations are keeping how much of the workforce is being pigeonholed, can't leave their jobs, can't start those businesses and work for themselves because they have to work for someone else, not because they need the paycheck, but because they need the health care. That's something they don't ever talk about. And then the doctors, they have to recoup. They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars going to college, then after college med school, then they had to do residency, then they had to spend all this money. They have to get that money back. So of course they're looking to write prescriptions that they can get kickbacks for. Of course, they're trying to do C-sections to black women that don't really need it. They need these rooms full. They need to get paid. They need to get paid. It's a hustle. It's a hustle. They need that money. So the doctors are trying to recoup the investment that they made when they were students. The corporations are keeping a percentage of the workforce pigeonholed because, oh, I'm not sick, but my wife is sick and my wife is on my Medicare, which my medical is tied to my job. So even though I want to start my own business and I've got some money saved up, I can't right now because we need the medication. So I got to stay here and keep working this job that I hate because I need the medical coverage. I need the healthcare coverage. People working, oh, I might lose my house. People working, saving, scared to death to get sick. Scared, no, just like people are scared to get fired and lose that single source of income they've got. People are scared. Oh man, if I get cancer, that's it. If I need a kidney transplant, that's it. If I get diabetes, that's it. People are scared because they know they can't afford it. And I guess a level of fear is healthy, but medical debt in and of itself should not be a thing. And we need to lower the barriers of entry for education. Free higher education would be good for Americans, would be good for America. I don't understand why we would want to raise barriers of entry for people who are willing and able to learn a skill. I think any STEM major, science, technology, engineering, and math, anybody who wants to study any STEM major, it should be totally free. Especially at state school. You go to University of Maryland, University of Georgia, University of Virginia, any state school, for sure. If you go to a state school, you're going to a school that the state, meaning the state government, is sponsoring. It's not even a private school. This is a state-funded school. If you have the grades to get in and you have the desire to learn a skill which can help humanity, a skill like medicine, accounting, literally any skill. How many kids do we know have the grades they pass, maybe they have a 3.0, but they come from poor families and they're like, I'm not even going to go to college because I know my parents can't afford it and I don't want the debt. Me, myself, I went to law school. After the first year, I was already 50K down. And I'm like, I got 2 more years. I passed all my classes. I can come back to the next semester. But I don't know if I want to risk going 200K in debt. Nah. I was homeless when I went to law school. Living in my car, sleeping in my car, living at the library. That's a whole nother story for another day. But let me tell you, higher education, it makes no sense. It's counterproductive. By making higher education, forget affordable, free, what you're doing is you're encouraging the society to get educated, to get more knowledge, to learn more skills. You're giving people an alternative to a life of crime. The society as a whole will only benefit by giving education out for free. Right now, everyone has what? Cell phones. You have the University of YouTube. You have the University of Google. You can go online and learn any skill. Why is our society, especially the United States government, as one of the richest countries in the world, one of the most powerful countries in the world, why are we raising barriers, preventing people who want to learn, who have the discipline and the desire to learn? Why are we making it difficult for them? What is to be gained by stopping and preventing people from showing up in class 5 days a week and getting knowledge, getting education? What's to be gained by stopping Americans from learning? You're trying to charge them. Why is that? The library is free. Everybody can go to the library, you get a library card, all those books are free. As they should be. It's all a scam. It's the Matrix. It's the Matrix, and all these things are tied together. The fact that people have something called medical debt, people have the ability to lose their homes because they got sick. The fact that that's even a thing. The fact that that's even a thing, that people just accept. They don't even think about the fact that people are actually losing their homes. People are unable to buy homes because they owe money for medical procedures. And a lot of times it's not even a medical procedure. I remember when my kidneys failed just in 2021, 2022. I had to go to the hospital for kidney failure. I drove to the hospital because I was not trying to take an ambulance, because I remember the ambulance cost like $2,000. They charge you for ambulance rides. Do you know how much they charge you for an ambulance ride? It might cost you $5 in gas. It might cost you $20 for Uber, but it's going to cost you hundreds for an ambulance. It's crazy. It's crazy, literally for a ride. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. All right. I'm sorry. I just went off on a tangent. Let's get back into this interview here. Sorry about that, guys. I'm going off on a tangent. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button if you think I'm on to something. If you agree with anything I've said tonight, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. All right. Let's get back into the interview.
Approach is understanding the obstacles that traditionally and currently exist to allow anyone, including Black men, be able to achieve economic wealth. And I'm going to tell you, I don't think it is sufficient to just only talk about economic policy around reducing unemployment. It is an important marker, and I'm proud of the work that we've done thus far. But it should be a baseline there. Everybody's working. The point is, do people have an opportunity to build wealth? If that's what they choose to do, if that's what they want to do. And a lot of my perspective as we go forward is just that. I believe that there are a lot of opportunities that are available to the American people if we see people and understand what they want for themselves and their families, and then meet them where they are.
Madam Vice President, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about the war in Gaza. Mm-hmm. You've called for a ceasefire hostage deal and a two-state solution as an end to the war for many months now. And while you've expressed support for Israel to defend itself, a two-state solution and a ceasefire are at odds with what Benjamin Netanyahu has said is their right to defense. If it matters, as you say, how Israel defends itself, where do you see the line between aggression and defense? And our power as Israel's ally to do something?
Okay, a lot to unpack in what you just said. So let's start with this. I absolutely believe that this war has to end, and it has to end as soon as possible. And the way
Now this is the first question that gave her some. That's actually a good question, because so far her questions have been pretty softball. But when you're talking about the small hats, you got to be careful. She knows APAC is listening. So now I want to hear this response, because this is finally something that's important. Let's hear what she has to say here.
To do something.
Okay, a lot to unpack in what you just said. So let's start with this. I absolutely believe that this war has to end, and it has to end as soon as possible. And the way that will be achieved is by getting a hostage deal and a ceasefire deal done. And we are working around the clock to achieve that end. Stepping back, October 7, 1,200 Israelis were slaughtered, and actually, and some Americans, by the way, in that number. Slaughtered. Young people who were attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And yes, so I have said, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And,
But Madam Vice President, I think my ask is the difference between aggression and defense.
No, but it's important to put it in context, which is what I'm doing, and I'll get to that. And so how it does so matters. And far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Women and children. We have seen with horror the images coming out of Gaza. And we have to take that seriously. And we have to agree that not only must we end this war, but we have to have a goal of a two-state solution, because there must be stability and peace in that region, inasmuch as what we do in our goal is to ensure that Israelis have security and Palestinians in equal measure have security, have self-determination, and dignity.
A question for you on that, though. What levers does the U.S. have to support Palestinians in their right to self-determination? And is it even possible as Israel's...
All right, so she's saying she'll support a ceasefire and a hostage deal. I don't know. Because her and Joe Biden are in office now. So I don't, if that's what her deal is, that's what she wants to do, why isn't she pursuing that now? I don't know. I don't know if she can be trusted on it. The answer wasn't bad. It was a decent answer. But I don't know how much we can trust her on this subject.
Ally.
Well, absolutely. I will tell you, I have been actively involved in, for example, meeting not only with Israeli officials, but with Arab officials to talk about how we can construct a day after scenario where we participate in ensuring those exact goals that I outlined, including as part of the principles that should be applied to those goals, that there be no reoccupation of Gaza, that there be no changing of the territorial lines in Gaza, that there be an ability to have security in the region for all concerned in a way that we create stability, and let us also recognize in a way that ensures that Iran is not empowered in this whole scenario in terms of the peace and stability of the region. But absolutely, the United States of America absolutely has a role, which is why we have been active, in particular with the Qataris.
All right. That's a fair answer. That's a good answer. It's better than what I've heard from Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been saying he wants to unleash Israel. Donald Trump saying he wants to unleash Israel and he wants to hold Iran responsible. So her response on the Israel-Gaza conflict is better than what I've heard from Trump. So I got to give her credit there.
And the Egyptians around attempting to get a deal done and get it done as quickly as possible.
But Madam Vice President, just to follow up really quickly, is there a specific policy change that you, as President of the United States, would say you would do that would help this along? Because you've gotten a lot of credit for emphasizing the humanity of Palestinians. But what I often hear from folks is that there's no policy change that either you or President Biden have gone and said they would do. Is there a specific policy change as president that you would do in our helping of Israel?
We need to get this deal done, and we need to get it done immediately, and that is my position, and that is my policy. We need to get this deal done.
But in the way that we send weapons, in the way that we interact as their ally, are there specific policy changes?
Well, Eugene, for example, one of the things that we have done that I am entirely supportive of is the pause that we've put on the 2,000-pound bombs. And so there is some leverage that we have had and used. But ultimately, the thing that is going to unlock everything else in that region is getting this deal done. And I'm not going to disclose private conversations, but I will tell you, I've had direct conversations with the Prime Minister, with the President of Israel, with Egyptian leaders, and with our allies. And I think we've made ourselves very clear this deal needs to get done in the best interest of everyone in the region, including getting those hostages out who, I mean, we saw the latest example of what happened with the 6 most recently, one of whom was an American citizen.
But what do you say to those that say that's not enough, that stopping the 2,000-pound bombs the one time wasn't enough, that this administration, your possible administration, has to do more?
Well, we are doing the work of putting the pressure on all parties involved to get the deal done. But let me be very clear also. I support Israel's ability to defend itself. And I support the need for Palestinians to have dignity, self-determination, and security as we move forward and get a two-state deal done. But right now, the thing we need to get done is this hostage deal and this ceasefire deal. We need a ceasefire. We need the hostage deal.
I want to switch gears to racial justice, Madam Vice President. Last month, you eulogized Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee.
Yeah.
Jackson Lee's signature bill, one of a few, was H.R. 40, which would create a commission to study the history of U.S. slavery and study the issue of reparations. She introduced H.R. 40 every session of Congress, taking up the mantle from Congressman John Conyers. This is a bill that you have co-sponsored as a U.S. Senator.
I might owe you all 50 push-ups. They mentioned reparations. Hey, I might owe you all 50 push-ups. I'm gonna have to make it short. I didn't think they were going to do it. All right. I'll give you all 50. I'll make it short, giving you all 50 push-ups. I made a bet. I lost. I didn't think they were going to bring it up. All right, let's see. They're starting to talk about a HR 40, the bill to study reparations. All right, now coming to the National Association of Black Journalists, you know this is a topic she prepared for. You know they were going to ask her about reparations, right? So let's see her response here. This is prepared. She's prepared for this question. She must be. Let's see what she has to say.
Issue of reparations. She introduced H.R. 40 every session of Congress, taking up the mantle from Congressman John Conyers. This is a bill that you have co-sponsored as a U.S. Senator. Yet, despite the fact that this has been, similar commissions have been created on the state level and on the local level, is yet to pass in Congress, let alone come out of committee. Congresswoman Jackson Lee, Congresswoman Barbara Lee, and other advocates have called for President Biden to take executive action to create this commission. Would you, as president, take executive action to create this commission, or do you believe that it should happen in Congress?
Well, first of all, as you mentioned, Sheila Jackson Lee, she was an extraordinary leader who we just recently lost, and she was a friend and a real champion for so many issues. So I feel compelled to say that about her. On the issue of what we need to do going forward, look, first of all,
All right, now the question was, are you going to make a commission for reparations? Didn't have nothing to do with it. All right, respect to Sheila Jackson Lee. Respect to her. God bless the dead. But here she goes with that filibustering. Answer the question, Kamala.
So I feel compelled to say that about her. On the issue of what we need to do going forward, look, first of all, we just need to speak truth about history in spite of the fact that some people are trying to erase history and try and teach our children otherwise. We need to speak truth about the generational impact.
No, no. Reparations. The question is, are you going, it was a yes or no question. Are you going to make a commission for reparations? We don't need to talk about history. We already know the history. We've already done the studies. Are you going to make a commission to push reparations on the congressional level? That was the question. We know the history. Here she goes with that filibustering. No. We don't need to talk about history. Come on now.
And try and teach our children otherwise. We need to speak truth about the generational impact of our history in terms of the generational impact of slavery, the generational impact of redlining, of Jim Crow law. I could go on and on and on. These are facts that have had impact.
Boo!
And we need to speak truth about it. And we need to speak truth about it in a way that is about deriving solutions. And frankly, I think that we, and part of that is studying it to figure out exactly what we need to do. But part of what we can.
The question was, are you going to start a commission for reparations? We don't need to talk about history. Well, that's not what the question was. The question has nothing to do with history. Do you hear this explaining? Do you hear this stalling? Do you hear this filibuster? It was a yes or no question. It was a very easy yes or no question. Are you going to make a commission? No, I'm not going to make a commission, but I will do this. Or yes, I will make a commission, and I think that is something that is deserved. Us talking about the history of redlining and Jim Crow, that is not what the question was, and that we've done that. We all know the history. We've got documentaries, we've got books. We know the history. What are we talking about? The future. We want to talk about the present and the future. We don't want to talk about the history anymore. This response from Kamala Harris is horrible. Horrible response from Kamala Harris. I'm going to have to make sure. So I'm going to have to cut this up. Oh no. Terrible. And like I said, this has to be prepared. You don't go to the National Association of Black Journalists talking to an all-black audience in the middle of 2024, in the middle of a delineation movement, in the middle of the FBA movement, and don't have an answer prepared for the question of reparations. The best answer she has, the best thing she could come up with is, we don't need a commission. We don't need HR 40. We need to talk about the history, talk about redlining. What? That's what y'all wrote up? And she okayed this as the line? This is what she prepared. Oh, this is not good. No. And everyone that's been saying, oh, she said she said she supports reparations on the Breakfast Club. Everyone's bringing that up. Well, she was asked directly in front of the all-black audience, all-black journalists. If she had no problem supporting reparations on Breakfast Club, then why is she not supporting it in front of the NABJ? Oh no. Kamala Harris's thumbs down. She failed the litmus test. There is a litmus test right now. There is a litmus test. Reparations or no. It's very easy. The line is drawn in the sand. We have an easy way to determine whether you are for us or against us. Very easy at this point. The question is, where do you stand on reparations? That is the litmus test. And this is a resounding F. This is a resounding failure. And there's ways, if she wanted to be vague about it, there's ways she could have answered this in a better way. The question was, will you support making a commission, an executive commission on the task of reparations? First of all, the answer should just be yes. Simple. That's easy. It's not even, are you going to give reparations via executive order, which would be unconstitutional? That's not the question. The question here is, will you just make a commission? Will you make a task force? Will you push reparations in any shape, form, or fashion? And this answer is a stuttering no. She's stalling. Oh no. Oh no. This is unacceptable. I'll take it back. I don't want to interrupt her answer, but this is just a horrible answer.
Our history, in terms of the generational impact of slavery, the generational impact of redlining, of Jim Crow law, I could go on and on and on. These are facts that have had impact. And we need to speak truth about it. And we need to speak truth about it in a way that is about deriving solutions. And frankly, I think that and part of that is studying it to figure out exactly.
We need to speak truth about it.
These
are things that have an impact. We need to speak truth about it. But what do we need to do about it? What do we need to do about it? Oh, we need to talk about it. We need to speak truth about it. We need to study it. What do we need to do to repair it, to fix it? That's the question here. Oh, this answer is pathetic. Pathetic.
Right now is, for example, what I'm talking about in terms of building an opportunity economy, which is addressing explicitly the obstacles that historically and currently exist and dealing with them. Student loan debt, medical debt, bias in home appraisals. What we need to do in terms of dealing with an issue that I have championed for years, Black maternal mortality, which is the fact that Black women are...
This is not reparations. This is not reparations. The economy as a whole is not reparations. This is a question that is specific to foundational Black Americans. You're in front of the National Association of Black Journalists. How can this be the best answer you have prepared for this question?
3 to 4 times more likely to die in connection with childbirth than other women. And we know that the reasons for that include disparities that pre-exist her pregnancy, including disparities that exist in the system during her pregnancy. So all of those things must be addressed.
But do you have a position on whether that should happen, this commission should happen through executive order or via Congress?
I think Congress ultimately will have the ability to do this work. I'm not discounting the importance of any executive action, but ultimately Congress. Because if you're going to talk about it in any substantial way, there will be hearings, there will be a level of public education and dialogue that, and I think that was part of the spirit behind the congressional action thus far, to ensure that everyone can participate in this conversation in a way that elevates.
I'm glad the brother followed up on the question and said, to be clear, will you do any executive action to promote reparations? He followed up to keep that, don't let her escape with that weak behind answer. He followed up and asked the question again, will you make executive action to further the cause of reparations? And she's hiding behind, no, I'm just going to leave it to Congress. And he had to feed her that answer. He was like, will you leave it to Congress? Because he's trying to give her an out. He was like, oh yeah, I'm just going to leave it to Congress. Yeah, she stole his answer. He gave her that answer. He fed her the answer. And yeah, I'm going to leave it to Congress. Okay, so what's the importance of having a Black, quote unquote, a Black president who doesn't want to do anything for Black people? That's a genuine question.
Education and dialogue that, and I think that was part of the spirit behind the congressional action thus far, to ensure that everyone can participate in this conversation in a way that elevates knowledge about history and the reference points that have that are the impetus of this conversation. Especially again when people are trying to deny history. when people are, so-called leaders are saying that enslaved people benefited from slavery. I mean, let's talk about the Delta here in terms of the work that needs to be done. It's profound.
It's history. Let's talk about history.
President, I want to move to Springfield, Ohio, and what's happening there. We've seen school closures, parents worried about their kids leaving the home because of racist conspiracy theories that I won't repeat here, but they have been repeated by leaders on the Republican side, President Trump, former President Trump, and Vice Presidential nominee J.D. Vance. From your perspective, is this just a case of irredeemable racism that can't be mitigated by any rational action, or is this a situation in which a federal response could help this community heal? There's a question of resources and...
Well, no, I'll let you finish and then I'll speak.
No, please.
It's a crying shame. I mean, my heart breaks for this community. You know, there were children, elementary school children, who it was school photo day. You remember what that's like? Going to school on picture day? Who were dressed up in their best, got all ready, knew what they were going to wear the night before, and had to be evacuated. Children. A whole community put in fear. And I'll say a couple things about it. One, I learned a long time ago in my career, having a background as a prosecutor, when you have these positions, when you have that kind of microphone in front of you, you really ought to understand at a very deep level how much your words have meaning. I learned at a very young stage of my career that the meaning of my words could impact whether somebody was free or in prison. As Attorney General, I was of California, fifth largest economy in the world. I was acutely aware that my words could move markets. When you are bestowed with a microphone that is that big, there is a profound responsibility that comes with that. That is an extension of what should not be lost in this moment, this concept of the public trust. To then understand what the public trust means. It means that you have been invested with trust to be responsible in the way you use your words, much less how you conduct yourself. And especially when you have been and then seek to be again President of the United States of America. And so I go back to, it's a crying shame, literally, what's happening to those families, those children in that community, not to mention what is happening in terms of, look, you say you care about law enforcement resources being put into this because of these serious threats that are being issued against a community that is living a productive, good life before this happened. And spewing lies that are grounded in tropes that are age-old. And look, I said it not very far from here the other day at the debate. This is not new. This is not new in terms of these tropes. This is not new in terms of where it's coming from. And, whether it is refusing to rent to people, rent to black families, whether it is taking out a full-page ad in the New York Times against 5 innocent black and Latino teenagers, the Central Park 5, calling for their execution, whether it is referring to the first black president of the United States with a lie, birther lies. And look, the American people deserve, and I do believe want better than this. I do believe that. I know the vast majority of us as Americans know we have so much more in common than what separates us. I know that. I know that regardless of someone's background, their race, their gender, their geographic location, I know that people.
All right. Now that was a pretty good answer. See, when she goes after Trump, she looks pretty good. When she brings up some of the rhetoric that Trump has used, in contrast, she does seem as the more reasonable person in the race, right? But when she talks about foundational Black Americans, she sounds as if she just has total vitriol. Can you tell the difference in the passion that she had? Seriously, just take a second and think about it. Just in this answer that she just gave. She was asked a question that is specific to the foundational Black Americans, the question of reparations. She sounded as if she didn't want to address the question at all. She didn't want to touch on it. She didn't want to give any solution. She didn't want to give her position on it. She didn't say, yeah, I support any type of action that would help or further the cause of reparations. She gave a very vague and disconnected answer. Then when asked about the Haitians being the defamation, alleged defamation from Donald Trump, saying that Haitians are in Ohio eating cats and ducks and whatnot, the answer she gave there was so much more passionate, so much more connected, as if this was a prepared answer and the question about reparations was not. You can tell the difference because she can relate to the immigrant Haitians in Ohio because she herself is an immigrant. So when the tropes are going out about Haiti, she can identify on that level, that human level that the Haitians are going through. But when it comes to foundational Black Americans, you can see she doesn't sound passionate at all. The way she answered the question about reparations didn't sound as if she put any thought into the answer at all. The answer about the Haitians sound prepared. The question about reparations, which is actual policy. See, the thing about Haitians, there's nothing she can do to solve that problem. Donald Trump's rhetoric is Donald Trump's rhetoric. Racists on the internet saying that the Haitians eat cats. This is free speech. There's nothing she can do to help the Haitians get out of that issue. So she has no problem sounding connected and passionate on that topic. But she actually has the possibility of getting elected into office and doing something that could actually better the Black community, specifically the foundational Black Americans. This is a substantial and tangible policy that could better our lives. And on that topic, something she actually has power and control over, she hasn't even put any thought into it. She has no passion. She has no type of connection. She's not specific. The answer on this question of reparations was horrible. And look at, in contrast, how she answers to the Haitian question. And tell me that the foundational Black Americans who are delineating, saying, hey, these other groups, they get into positions of power, they don't have our best interests in mind. They don't. That is a legitimate response. That is a legitimate critique at this point. When people say, I wouldn't even consider her Black. She's not a Black American. She's not a foundational Black American. That delineation movement is legitimate. It's necessary for reasons like this. For reasons like this. Shout out and salute to Brandit Sophia. Brandit says, Democrats let states and municipalities at their discretion determine to pursue reparations. Basically, reparations, according to Dems, is not a federal matter. That's the problem. We're trying to make it a federal matter. We want this to be she's the president. She is running for, she's not the president yet. She needs our vote. But she is going to the National Association of Black Journalists soliciting the Black vote. The reason she's here is because she's doing outreach to the Black people, the Black vote. And people who are critiquing her, saying she doesn't have the best interests of the foundational Black Americans in heart, that is a fair critique. Just look at the way she responded to these two questions. I wish I could put them side by side. And I might even have to make a short playing these questions side by side. The answer that she gave on the topic of reparations was horrible. It was horrible. It was vague. She was not trying to touch the issue at all. She looked uncomfortable just being asked. But the question she gave on the Haitian immigrants being recorded eating cats, she looked like she's prepared. She looked like she was personally affected, emotionally affected. It's crazy the difference of response she gave there.
People are deeply troubled by what is happening to that community in Springfield, Ohio. And it's got to stop. And we've got to say that you cannot be entrusted with standing behind the seal of the President of the United States of America, engaging in that hateful rhetoric that, as usual, is designed to divide us as a country, is designed to have people pointing fingers at each other. It's designed to do that. And I think most people in our country, regardless of their race, are starting to see through this nonsense and to say, you know what, let's turn the page on this. This is exhausting and it's harmful and it's hateful and grounded in some age-old stuff that we should not have the tolerance for. So let's turn the page and chart a new way forward and say, you can't have that microphone again.
Madam Vice President, I'm switching gears again.
Okay.
Quick question. I want to talk to you about gun control. So you've said you support an assault weapons ban and universal background checks, and we actually learned during the debate that you are a gun owner. But in cities like Philadelphia, handguns are responsible for most homicides and violent crime. The most recent FBI data shows handguns were involved in 59% of murders in our country. How will you address the issue of the use of handguns? Because a push for an assault weapons ban only addresses a significant but small part of the problem.
So, first of all, yes, I am a gun owner, and Tim Walz is a gun owner, and we're not trying to take anybody's guns away from them. But we do need an assault weapons ban. Assault weapons are designed to kill a lot of human beings quickly,
Yes,
and
an
have
assault
no
weapons
place,
ban,
and have
yes.
no place, I'm gonna get to it,
Yes.
and have no place on the streets of a civil society. We need universal background checks, which, to your point about handguns, is about saying that it is just reasonable to want reasonable gun safety laws that say we should do background checks that we ought to know. It's just reasonable. You might want to know before someone can buy a lethal weapon if they've been found by a court to be a danger to themselves or others. You might just want to know.
And respectfully, we do understand that.
But you're asking
Yes.
about...
I'm
you're
asking specifically about handguns, because many of those handguns aren't purchased in places.
Universal background checks apply to handguns.
Yes.
They do.
But in
And
many instances, those handguns aren't even bought lawfully. Yes.
Which is why I also have been very adamant for years. In fact, I myself protested at a gun show probably 10, 15 years ago about the gun show loophole and why we need to close that. Because what ends up happening is that gun shows at flea markets, gun dealers are not, under existing law in the past, required to register their sales. And so you are exactly right that a lot of homicides, for example, a good number of them, I don't have the statistic in front of my mind, are committed with illegally purchased guns. And that's why we need to address each entry point in the issue, including universal background checks, closing the gun show loophole, and what we need to do as a general matter to focus not only on reaction to crime, but prevention of crime. So you're raising a very important issue that has many facets, including what we need to do in terms of reasonable gun safety laws and what we need to do around crime prevention, what we need to do around crime deterrence. But listen, I have personally prosecuted homicide cases. I have held the hands of mothers who have come to me crying, who have said, I only want to talk to Kamala, because they knew when they sat down, I would treat them with the dignity and respect that they were entitled and due about the loss of their child, often their son, to gun violence and the need to take it seriously. And we must take it seriously in every way, understanding it's not just about a soundbite. It's about a comprehensive approach that deals with the tragedy of, to your point, everyday gun violence in America. It's real. It has had a profound impact in terms of trauma that, for the most part, has gone undiagnosed and untreated. The trauma that exists in communities around the violence of losing their children, losing a brother, losing a father, an uncle, all of that must be addressed, and we have to have a holistic response to it.
Are there things we haven't thought about yet? Because every time we bring up this issue of gun violence, universal background checks comes up and a ban on assault weapons. Are there other solutions that you're also thinking about that will get at this issue?
Absolutely. For example, part of what we did so we, as vice president and with the president, we were able to pass the first meaningful gun safety legislation in 30 years. And part of what that involved was millions and millions of dollars to put more mental health counselors in public schools, right? Because we know that there is an aspect of this that is about treating the trauma and dealing with it at its source before it ends up manifesting itself in a problem. There is the work that we need to do that is about putting resources into communities around violence prevention. I've been a big advocate of that for years, which includes what we need to do around putting resources into community-based intervention that is not just requiring on the good people in the community to volunteer to do the intervention, but actually paying people to do it because it's a full-time job. It's about understanding what we need to do to, again, understand that, to your point, we have to have a holistic response to this issue and prioritize it instead of reacting to the tragedy that, sadly, they are too predictable. Let's all agree, enough of that. There are very few solutions that we haven't thought of. We need to put the resources into them.
Madam Vice President, we want to move to the topic of reproductive access, something that you have worked in leading on both for the administration, Democrats, and now the top of the ticket. You've said that as president, you would want to codify Roe. If it came to your desk, you would sign a bill that did that. Roe protected access.
Before we get into the reproductive topic, I would just want to say, Kamala has no solutions as far as stopping gun violence. There's not something that can be legislated away. At this point, guns are too common. They're out on the streets. Universal background checks, because the problem is criminals, the people who are going to use guns to commit crimes, they're not being affected. They're not buying the guns, registered guns. They're using hot guns. They're using hot weapons. See, what happens a lot of times is, let's say I buy a firearm legally, right? What I'll do is, what could be done is, let me put it like this, just to give you all some game without incriminating myself. What a lot of people do, allegedly, giving y'all some word from the streets, is they'll know somebody who's square, who's clean. They'll have the square person purchase a bunch of weapons, purchase a bunch of guns. Then the square person breaks a window into their house, calls 911 the next day, and reports the gun stolen. The square person gets paid by the arms dealer, and they get paid from the insurance company. If you have renter's insurance, homeowner's insurance, you report your firearm stolen, you get the money from the insurance companies. Then you sell the weapons. You can buy $5,000, $10,000 worth of firearms, whether they be rifles, usually go for about $1,200, $1,400. You can on up. Right? For, let's say you want an M16. Let's say you want to get a pistol, a handgun, $250. You can get a decent Smith & Wesson Glocks for $250 and up. You buy $5,000, $10,000 worth of handguns, and you don't do it. You do it over time, right? Let's say 12 months. You buy a gun a month, couple guns a month, couple handguns, couple rifles. Spend $5,000, $10,000 on firearms. After about a year, you break your window to your house, heading in. Call the police the next day. Hey, someone broke into my house. My firearms are missing. You get the money back from homeowners insurance, and you sell the guns. You can get the money double dip. All right. This happens all the time. This is just one way. This is just one way of getting your hands on some firearms. Let me tell you, this is an all too common occurrence in the United States of A. All right. In America, this is how it goes down. This is how it goes down. Let's be real. So the universal. And then not only that, but people giving their firearms away. Think about this school shooter down in Georgia, who was flagged by the FBI a year ahead of the shooting, after he made threats on Discord saying, "Yeah, I'm going to scoot up the school." And then he gets arrested. How did he get access to the guns? Oh, his dad gave him firearms. Listen, this is not something that you just easily going to legislate away. This has to do with the culture of America. Some people just not going to make it. This is the society we live in. If you as a citizen, I'm a Second Amendment advocate. I own multiple firearms. Let me tell you, this is not. You're not taking assault weapons ban. That just makes the assault rifles go up. I'm buying stock in Smith and Wesson now. I need to go out and buy an M16. Before November, before Kamala takes office. Because what she's doing is she's limiting the rights of the legal citizens who tend to buy firearms legally. She's not limiting the rights and the ability of the criminals to get their hands on firearms. Criminals are going to get firearms one way or another. They're criminals. They don't care about your laws. They don't care about your background check. Let's be real. What you're doing is you're limiting us, civilians, who are law-abiding civilians, law-abiding citizens. She's trying to limit us. All right, we're getting into the last one. We're wrapping up here. We got about 10 minutes left, a little less than 10 minutes left on this interview. We're going to wrap it up. But first, let me go through a couple of these comments coming from Brandon Sophia. Salute and shout out Brandon Sophia. Brandon says, Kamala knows black women set the tone of black votes, and being able to engage them is a great positive for Mrs. Harris. Yeah, I'd agree. Hip hop is taking many black eyes these days and won't be used to a full extent to get young people to vote. This election requires sophistication, and Kamala is highly trained in such so far. I disagree. Kamala Harris, she's been reliant on the hip hop community. She's got Quavo introducing her at the DNC. She's looking for endorsements from Taylor Swift. She's pandering to the youth through hip hop, through music artists. That's exactly what she's doing. She's been very limited, very sparse and scarce in her discussion of actual policy. She's been heavily reliant on her connections, her endorsements. That's why we're breaking down this interview to see what she's actually saying, what her rhetoric is, the policies she's advocating when asked. That's why we're here. Back to Brandon. Brandon says, I wonder if the number of guns in black hands means an increase in police shooting against black suspects. No. No, I don't. First of all, I don't know if there's necessarily an increase in the number of guns in black hands. Black people should practice the Second Amendment. They should be law-abiding citizens, and we should have all the protections of the Second Amendment as any other American citizen does. So I'm a Second Amendment advocate. As far as that being a cause for police shootings against black suspects, the majority of the time, police are shooting unarmed black suspects. The majority of the time, they're unarmed. That, at least the cases that the black community tends to care about. When an armed criminal gets killed by the police, black people usually don't protest that. It's when unarmed people have been sitting there for 8 minutes with handcuffed with a man on his back. That's something that people tend to get upset about. The man is clearly handcuffed, his hands are behind his back, and you're sitting there for 8 minutes with your knee on his back. That's a little bit more legitimate. That's a legitimate concern. That has nothing to do with the Second Amendment or black people carrying guns. That has to do with race soldiers thinking that they can get away with murder and trying to find a good kill, a quote unquote good kill. Back to Brandon. Brandon says, owning a gun shows you have power in the home and is part of American dream home ownership. That's right. That's right. Every American citizen, especially black Americans, should be advocates for the Second Amendment and should keep multiple firearms in their home. Yeah. It's the castle doctrine. When you leave your home, you might not be safe, but in your home, you've got nowhere else to retreat to. If you're not safe at home, you're not safe anywhere. So when you go out to the world, you might have to worry about these race soldiers stepping on your back. You got to worry about other black people trying to rob you, trying to hit you, trying to take what you got. It's a reality. You got to worry about black on black, quote unquote, black on black crime. You got to worry about other black people trying to knife you. But you also got to worry about the police. You got to worry about criminals. You got to worry about the police when you're out in the world. But when you're at home, that's the one place you should feel safe. That's the one place you should feel like if there's any threat that comes here, I'm not running. I'm not bowing down. This is the one place where, hey, I got nowhere else to go. If you bring the drama here, damn it, drama is going to be. Out in the world, sometimes you got to eat humble pie. Sometimes you got to bow your head and be like, all right, man, I give you a pass. Let me just get home. But when you get home, there's no more passes. When you get home, you should be safe. You need to get that Second Amendment on. All right, so it sounds like they're going to go into the child deletion topic here. So let's finish out this interview here. Be sure, if you've made it this far, by the way, to hit the thumbs up button, guys. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. I appreciate everyone who's been rocking with me this far. I appreciate y'all rocking with me. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button. Support the channel. All right, let's get into it. Here we go.
Administration, Democrats, and now the top of the ticket, you've said that as president, you would want to codify Roe. If it came to your desk, you would sign a bill that did that. Roe protected access until fetal viability, which it also says is, quote, at about 7 months, but it may occur earlier, even at 24 weeks. So do you similarly support also codifying Roe's restrictions, which allows states to ban abortion in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy unless necessary to save the mother's life?
We need to put the protections of Roe v. Wade back into law. And when that bill gets passed by Congress, I will proudly sign it into law. Understand what is happening in our country. Over 20 states have passed what I call Trump abortion bans because I understand how we got here. The former president handpicked 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. They did as he intended, and in state after state, laws have been passed criminalizing healthcare providers. I don't know if anyone here has heard most recently the stories out of Georgia. Tragic story about a young woman who died because it appears the people who should have given her health care were afraid they'd be criminalized after the Dobbs decision came down. Laws that make no exception even for rape or incest, which means that you're telling a survivor of a crime of a violation to their body that they have no right to make a decision about what happens to their body next, which is immoral. An approach that doesn't take into account that most people, I think, agree you don't have to abandon your faith or deeply held beliefs to agree the government should not be telling her what to do with her body. If she chooses, she will talk with her pastor, her priest, her rabbi, her imam, but it should not be the government or Donald Trump telling her what to do about her own body and her life. So that's where I stand. We need to put back in place the protection of Roe v. Wade, and put that into law.
And those restrictions that are also in.
We need to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade and let an individual, in consultation with her doctor, make the decision based on what she can determine, because she's smart enough to know what's in her best interest instead of having her government tell her what to do, especially a bunch of people in these state capitals who think they're in a better position to tell her what to do than she is to know what's in her best interest.
Before we conclude, Madam Vice President.
Uh-oh, she was a little feisty on that answer. Notice she didn't mention anything about the restrictions. She was asked multiple times, what about the restrictions to Roe v. Wade? She didn't say yes and the restrictions. So when Donald Trump says the Democrats under Kamala Harris would make child deletions legal up until the third trimester, that's a fair criticism at this point, because she was given multiple opportunities to say, I respect the restrictions, no third trimester child deletions. No, she didn't. She was asked multiple times, and she did not say she wants any type of restrictions. So she's just, hey, let it fly. Let it fly. Well, even after the baby has a heartbeat, you can see the ultrasound. I really don't think that people understand. People, especially because the majority of my audience is mostly black men. The majority of black men don't have kids. I think like 51% are single and childless in the black community. A lot of black men don't understand that you can see the ultrasound within the first trimester. You can see an image of the baby. It's kind of crazy. It's like you can see a fully formed. It's clearly a human right there. Like it doesn't take long for that thing to start forming. That's why when they start kicking, it's not surprising. That means they're getting big. That's like second and moving into the third trimester. But as soon as you get past the first trimester, you can kind of see the whole image. It's a whole baby. When people say, "Oh, it's not a baby, it's a fetus," I'm like, have you ever seen a picture of an ultrasound? Because that does not look like a fetus. That looks like a whole baby. that's a whole baby right there. They be lying to people because most childless folks, you never saw like a lot of folks. Childless folks, you've never seen an ultrasound, but it doesn't take long before a fetus turns into a whole baby. You can see like that is a baby right there. Yeah, it might still be in the woman's belly, but I know a baby when I look at one. It's a baby that's just curled up like this. It's curled up in the fetal position, but that is clearly not a fetus. That is a baby. First of all, tell me something that's not alive that kicks. First of all, let me ask you that. If you think, oh, fetuses aren't babies, well, you could sell a baby in the womb can kick you, right? Tell me there's something that's not alive that kicks. Frogs kick, kangaroos kick, cows, horses kick. These are things that are alive. There's nothing that's not alive that kicks. So when they say, oh, you can have a shmishmortion, you want to go to the doctor and get a shmishmortion, it's not a baby, it's just a fetus. Have you seen the ultrasound? Okay, all right. That looks like a baby to me. The thing's kicking. It has a heartbeat. It's kicking. It has an ultrasound. You've seen pictures of this thing, and you're telling me that's not a baby? Someone's in denial. I don't know. But she didn't say she supports any restrictions on shmishmortions. So she's going to allow the shmishmortions up to the third trimester. So when Donald Trump calls her out on that, that's a fair criticism.
And Joyful Warrior has been used to describe your campaign.
You didn't see that just a minute ago, though. Okay, I'm back to my joyful part.
And your opponent and Republicans have at times weaponized you laughing in campaign ads, for example. Why is joy important to you to insert into this election? And what do you make of Republicans using that as a way to suggest that you're not a serious candidate?
Well, sometimes I think, and I'll say to whoever the young people are who are watching this, there are some times when your adversaries will try and turn your strength into a weakness. Don't you let them. Don't you let them. I find joy in the American people. I find joy and optimism in what I see to be our future and our ability to invest in it. I find joy in the ambition of the people. I find joy in the dreams of the people. I find joy in building community. I find joy in building coalitions. I find joy.
I've got joy down in my heart, deep, deep down in my heart. I've got joy down in my heart, deep, deep down in my... Listen to this one.
In believing that the true measure of the strength of a leader is not based on who you beat down, but who you lift up. And I think we should all find joy and have a sense of optimism about who we are as Americans and what we mean to each other and what we can do to lift each other up.
Madam Vice President, President Biden spoke to former President Trump after the attempt on his life this weekend. Have you spoken to him?
I have.
And earlier today, I assume?
Yes.
How'd that go? You want to give us some intel?
Sure. I checked on him to see if he was okay.
Yeah.
And I told him what I have said publicly. There's no place for political violence in our country. I am in this election and in this race for many reasons, including to fight for our democracy. And in a democracy, there is no place for political violence. We can and should have healthy debates and discussion and disagreements, but not resort to violence to resolve those issues.
On January 6th, your vehicle was allowed to kind of pass a viable pipe bomb. We've seen...
No, I was in the building.
You were in the building. And we've seen what's happening with former President Trump. Do you have full confidence in the Secret Service to protect all of you?
I do.
You feel safe, you and your family?
I do. But, I mean, you can go back to Ohio. Not everybody has Secret Service. And there are far too many people in our country right now who are not feeling safe. I mean, I look at Project 2025, and I look at, like the Don't Say Gay laws coming out of Florida. Members of the LGBTQ community don't feel safe right now. Immigrants or people with an immigrant background don't feel safe right now. Women don't feel safe right now. And so, yes, I feel safe. I have Secret Service protection. But that doesn't change my perspective on the importance of fighting for the safety of everybody in our country. And doing everything we can to, again, lift people up and not beat people down so they feel alone and are made to feel small and made to feel like they're somehow not a part of it or us.
Madam Vice President, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
I've appreciated this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, guys. So that is the Kamala Harris NABJ sit-down conversation. All right. Tell me what you think, guys. If you enjoyed it, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. If you haven't done so already, be sure to smash the subscribe button for more content like this. It's an election year, so we got a lot of political commentary that we've been discussing, but we're going to have more topics on different, news, politics, current events. We're going to have more videos talking about hip hop. There's been a lot of news in hip hop and R&B recently. We know that Puff Daddy has recently been arrested by the FBI, by the feds for trafficking. So we're going to be talking about that situation probably tomorrow. We're going to be breaking down this Diddy situation. We're going to be talking about health as far as the lifestyle of many different artists. We see that Rich Homie Quan allegedly overdosed recently, so he's left this plane. R.I.P. God bless the dead to Rich Homie Quan, as well as Tito Jackson. So there's been a lot of things going on in the hip hop and R&B arena. We're going to we're gonna break down. We're gonna have a conversation about the music tomorrow. So if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel for these types of topics, these type of conversations. I appreciate everyone who's been rocking with me this far. Be sure to hit the thumbs up button on your way out because it's free. It's free, it boosts us in the algorithm, and it keeps me motivated. If y'all enjoy watching these types of videos, y'all want more of it, hey, give me a thumbs up. That way I'll come back with that heat day after day. Keep me motivated, keep me coming back, right? Giving y'all something interesting to watch, to provoke thought, right? So be sure to hit the thumbs up button, support the channel, guys. Without any further ado, I appreciate y'all. Give me y'all a round of applause. A shout out to everyone watching, and I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.
I done ran up all these bands up in hand and made like 5 bands a day. I was broke, came up with a plan, now I'm the man, there ain't no stopping me. I done ran up all these bands up in hand and made like 5 bands a day. I was broke, came up with a plan, now I'm the man, there ain't no stopping me. It ain't no stopping me. Got bands, I'ma run it up, it ain't no stopping me. I was broke, came up with a plan, now I'm the man, it ain't no stopping me. Got bands, I'ma run it up, it ain't no stopping me. I done ran up all these bands up in hand and made like 5 bands a day. I was broke, came up with a plan, now I'm the man, there ain't no stopping me. I done ran up all these bands up in hand and made like 5 bands a day. I was broke, came up with a plan, now I'm the man, there ain't no stopping me. It ain't no stopping me. Got bands, I'ma run it up, it ain't no stopping me.